Good morning. Welcome to the kitchen this morning. That's as far as I've gotten. It's the kitchen and a cup of coffee. I'm moving a little bit slow this morning. So let's see who's going to join me this morning. It is uncommonly beautiful weather for the middle of November. But I'm sure that's fixing to change really soon. But it's been a great week. I'm sorry I missed you on Thursday. I had to go get my car worked on early. And so I didn't make it. Okay, who's out here? Hi, Jennifer. Good morning. I hope you're having a great morning so far. It's pretty early. Not a whole lot being done yet. But it's a good day. It's going to be a great day. Someone might say, well, how do you know that? How can you say it's going to be a great day? Morning, Brenda. I was thinking about you a while ago. Do you have your flavored water to drink while I'm drinking my coffee? I know it's going to be a great day. You say, well, what if something terrible happens? I know some horrible things could happen today. But do you know what? If I'll just keep my eyes upon the Lord and my trust in Him, He's going to outshine it all. In the midst of whatever you may face today, in the midst of whatever you may be facing right now, Jesus will outshine it all if you just allow Him to. Let me share with you a little experience that I've had over the last week. A week ago yesterday, I was traveling US 69 from Adair to Pryor, Oklahoma, that road in there. I was actually going past Pryor, but that stretch of road that goes from Adair to Pryor and on up US 69. As I was traveling that road a week ago yesterday, for the umpteenth, 100th time, I noticed the 110-foot cross by the highway. I guess it's steel, concrete, I don't know what it is. It's not wood. It's 110 foot tall. Huge, huge cross. Sitting just right off the highway. You can see it for a mile away. And as I drove by that for the umpteenth time, I mean seriously, I have driven by that cross dozens upon dozens upon dozens of times, if not hundreds of times. I don't want to get too evangelistically speaking there, but I know dozens upon dozens upon dozens of times I've driven by that cross. I thought again to myself, one day I'm going to turn off the highway and go down to where that cross is and see what's by it. See if there's a plaque, if there's a sign, see who erected it. But I didn't have time that day, so I drove on by. But as I drove, I kept thinking about that cross. I thought, I drive by that cross. I was going to drive by it twice that day on the way to where I was going and on the way back. I drive by that cross all of these times, almost within the shadow of it. And yet I've never taken the time to go to the foot of the cross. Wow. And it got a hold of me. I kept thinking about how many people in life come within the shadow of the cross. And they never make it on over to the cross. So yesterday, I intentionally, because usually when I pass the cross, I'm on the way somewhere. I mean, that's just usually what I'm doing. I go by the cross on my way someplace else. But yesterday, I decided to intentionally make a trip to the cross. So I set out to drive over there. Wasn't going anywhere else. And when I got there, got to where the road was, you turn off of the main highway. And it couldn't even been a tenth of a mile. I mean, just a little bitty distance off of the highway, and there was a road that you turn back on. No sign, so I turned back on that road, and it took me up into like a little parking area. And there was a sign that said, "This is as far as you can drive. Your walk begins here. Welcome." As I sat there in my car, I was facing the cross. It was like magnificent. But there was so much more. So I got out of the car, and there was a little wooden bridge that you walk across, and then you had to climb a hill. Well, as I started up the hill, the first place I saw on my right was a well. And I really think it was originally an old well. I don't think someone had just constructed it, because it had a cover on it and a big lock. I think it was an original well. There was a bucket hanging beside it. And next to it, there was a sign that told about the well. Well, you can guess what the story was. Jesus and the Samaritan woman at the well. Come get a drink. Wow, I'm getting cold chills just thinking about it. So I stood there. It was on a little patio type area. They had put rock around it. There were some benches there. I stood there for a while and just meditated and soaked it in. So then I left there and I walked on up the hill. And I walked a little farther up the hill, and there was a soldier. Someone had built a soldier, kind of a metal statue. This soldier was a little different. He was armed in full armor. At the base of this soldier was the scripture, "Putting on the whole armor of God." And it went and listed what the armor pieces were. And as you looked up at this soldier, you could see the breastplate of righteousness. You could see his feet shod with the preparation of peace. And it was quite an experience to stand there and look at that soldier and how he was armed with the armor of God. I stood there for a while and thought about that and continued my climb up the hill. And then I got to the 110-foot cross. I mean, I'm at the base of that thing. I'm having to go like this to try to see the top of it. Because really, from where I was, all I could see was the bottom plainly. And then I looked over to my left, and there were more things. And there was a mowed, it looked like prairie because all the grass is dead. And there was a mowed path that had led me up to the cross, and then the mowed path led me on around to walk, like a walkway. So I followed the path. And the next thing I came to was like a big, almost like a railroad tie, a huge railroad tie. It's kind of what it would put you in the mind of. And on the front of that tie, they had carved, "Faith is the key." And there was this huge, huge chain that wrapped around this tie, and a great big a big padlock on it. And there was a sign at the end of it. And said, these chains are our sins. And the key to unlock those chains is faith, and it's found at the cross. Wow. I mean, this was quite an experience and quite an adventure yesterday. I just thought I was driving over to see who built that cross. And so I stayed there for a little while. It's like each one of these was like a station almost. And then I followed the path up to another hill, and there were 3 crosses. And on the middle cross was the engraving, Jesus, King of the Jews. And again, there was a placard or a sign that told about the criminals that hung on either side of Christ, and about the one that cried out to him and said, remember me. Whew. And you know the story. Jesus said, today, thou shalt be with me in paradise. Wow. So I stayed there for a while and I soaked it in. And I thought this must be the end of it. I kind of went as high as I could go. And as I turned, thinking I was ready to walk back down the hill, I looked to my right and yet another place. So I followed the mowed path to another little place. And there was a bench there. And there was a statue of hands. And these hands were holding a baby. I first thought before I got there, I saw it was hands. And I thought, it's going to be a statue of Jesus, of the hands holding the world. He's got the whole world in his hands. That's what I thought. But when I got there, I thought, what is that? And I got up close, and as I looked at that, I could see the head and the little ear and it was a baby. It was hands holding a baby. And I read the sign that went with it in the placard, and it was a memorial for those babies that had been aborted. Of course, I was stirred, not about the abortion, but my mind went back to just a few weeks ago when my great-grandson entered into this world, but he entered having the life already gone out of him. And that was a very sorrowful time for my family. It still is. It's a very tender time. We called him AJ, Andrew Justin. And we'd already been calling him AJ before he was ever born. And as I looked at that baby in those hands, I thought, yes. Jesus, you have AJ in your hands. Wow. What an experience. And after spending some time there, I started my trek down the hill back to the parking area where my car was. So much different than what I was when I walked up the hill to get to the cross. Hebrews chapter 12. Actually, let me read Colossians first. Colossians 2:14 says, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross. That's what Jesus did. He nailed it to the cross. And then Hebrews says, Hebrews 12:2, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him, joy, think about that. Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. He endured the cross. Before I started down the hill back to my car, I stood there and I looked at the highway. I mean, I was surrounded on going two different directions, the highway, and cars just buzzing. Busy highway. And I stood there and I thought, Lord, how many thousands of people have driven by the cross since it was erected? I don't know if I could, let's see if it'll tell me when it was built. Let's see. Let's see if it tells online when it was built. It's not telling me right here. I don't know how long it's been there. Actually, it says its founding date was May 5th, 2015. So it's been there at least 10 years. 10 years. I can't even imagine how many thousands of people have driven by the cross in those 10 years. I had people tell me this week, I've driven that highway a lot, and I never noticed the cross. I don't know how you can keep from it unless you just strictly just walk straight in front of you, because if you glance at all, I mean, it's there. And yet, millions over 2,000 years have passed by the cross and never seen it. And then millions more have seen the cross, just like I did. No telling how many thousands of people over the last 10 years have said, oh, look at that cross. That's something. We ought to go down there and check it out someday. And someday never happens. And then, of course, I'm drawn to how many thousands of people have seen the cross or seen the shadow of the cross and said, someday I'm going to go check it out. But not today. I'm too busy today. I've got an agenda. I've got someplace to go, and I don't have time today. How many people have sat in our churches and heard the preaching of the cross and thought, wow, that's an impressive story. Someday, when my life settles down, someday when I get these things taken care of in my life, I'm going to check out the cross. But not today. People have lived and died, passing in the shadow of the cross, and never made it to the foot of the cross. You know that that criminal, that thief that was hanging on the cross, he was really fortunate. You say, are you out of your mind? How can you say that someone being crucified or hanging on a cross is fortunate? Because he was forced to look at the cross. He was on a cross, and he was forced to look at the Christ hanging on the cross. And in that forced look, he saw hope. He saw hope. And he said, remember me, Lord. And that's all it took. I don't know who may end up seeing this. And I'm going to ask you to share this one specifically today. I'd like to see this shared many times, because I'd like someone to get interested in the cross. Now, I think it'd be great if everybody within, driving distance of Adair or Pryor, Oklahoma, or Claremore, Oklahoma, even Tulsa, would make a day trip and drive over it. It's free. It's on private. I guess it's on private property. It's just open and maintained for anybody. It's well worth a day trip. But more than that, I'd like someone to listen to what I just shared with you and think, you know what? That's me. I've passed by the cross dozens upon dozens upon dozens of times. And I believe today I'll investigate it. I believe today I'll go to the foot of the cross and I'll cry, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. If you haven't visited the cross, my sincere prayer today for you is that you will stop what you're doing, take the time to visit the cross, because at the cross, you'll find everything you need. Everything is at the cross. God bless you. Have a blessed day. And remember, there's room at the cross.